Mhm.
All right, Jackie, tell us a bit about your mural window painting business and all the things that you do and how you came to do it.
Awesome. Well, I started pretty much 20 years ago or just under. My daughter was about 1 year old or just a little bit older than one. And I've always loved art. I've been painting, drawing, and since I was little. I even did some murals when I was a teenager in my own room. Um, yeah, and then it was word of mouth. Well, so it was actually my friend that hired me to paint her hair salon ceiling. That was the first mural. I started in murals, so that was the first one I had ever done. It went really well. She had she had twins, so she got me to come and do paint her nursery, and then it just went from there. Then it was her sister-in-law hired me to do a mural in her kids' room. Kids' rooms, I think, for the starting was um, what I focused on, just because when you're first starting out, you're not necessarily going to go to the big exterior ones, but yeah, and then it was word of mouth from there, um, and yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to think.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're like putting your whole story in a nutshell. It's like
Yeah,
where's the most important parts? Basically, what I
well,
want to extract from you is the parts that our listeners can learn from.
okay.
Like, so how are you getting customers now? Is it still word of mouth?
It's mostly on site. So most of my customers like will approach me while I'm painting, as well as Facebook and Instagram. So social media for sure is the other half of it. When I first started, it was, I'd do markets. I would go door to door with flyers, with just like a few pictures of art I had done, my contact info. And that way, I think approaching people is when you're first starting is the best way personally, just because then they get to meet you. You're the face of the business, you're the one who's doing the art. A lot of people like that, like they always asked like, will you be the one painting? Like I think they were concerned I was just going to send somebody else randomly after, but yeah. And yeah, now I don't advertise. I mean, I post my paintings online, of course, but or on Facebook and Instagram, but other than that, that's the only advertising I do now, other than myself.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, it
Not
is.
having to be a slave to the social media posting and whatnot.
Exactly. I
Okay, so
don't
you
even have, I'm not like I don't have tons of followers or anything, but I mean, I think I do thousands, um, good in my books. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So, oh gosh dang it, where was I going with this? I had a question and then,
Sure. We
um,
lost it. That's too
yeah.
bad. Well, also it was great when I was like first starting out. My daughter was really young, so I could work as well as take care of her. So it's an incentive for even young moms, or you know,
Yeah,
I think
for sure. Yes, no,
it,
it is for
it's hard to
sure.
juggle both.
Yeah, no, I going back to work, having my son last year, it was so
Oh,
great to just
uh, you
yeah,
have
yeah,
a new,
I have a toddler now, so
wow,
he's not quite 2 yet, but he's yeah, going back to work with that, it just being able to just make my own schedule and,
that's the
just
best.
go out and
Hmm.
do, like, a 3-hour job, and then, okay,
Yep,
I'll get a little bit braver and then do, like, a 4-hour job, and then a
yep.
5, and then I'll be gone the full day. Well, which was a big deal when you have a
It is
baby.
a big deal, but like it's better than you just all of a sudden you're gone 8 hours and he's used to you home all day. It's a little bit easier when you can kind of do it on your own terms.
Definitely. So you do mostly windows or what kind of arts do you
Um, Really any custom art. So Windows would be I would say at least 75% of my business. So it
do
is the
year round?
majority year round. Absolutely. Yeah, I do spring, like seasons are really big. Obviously holidays. Christmas is absolute insanity, but Halloween is busy, St. Patrick's Day is busy. I get a few here and there for Valentine's, Easter, that kind of thing, but promotional windows are really big too. So sales or wording or just pictures that kind of depict whatever the business is to just it. I mean, as I'm sure you know, like it's an eye catcher, so it is a useful tool for the business owner. Like, I mean, you're investing in a window painting, but at the same time, it's getting you business. I believe it definitely attracts people's eyes to the storefront. So yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so I have experience with doing Christmas windows and then a little bit here and there. So it fascinates me to hear that you are doing it year round, and I want to know
Yeah.
more about that. Like,
Okay.
what specific businesses are you painting for? And I ask this
Okay.
because, and like, who would want 4th of July windows? Like, who would want St. Patrick's windows? Basically,
Yeah.
to think about, if somebody's out there is wanting to go around and pitch themselves, what
Mhm.
businesses would they go to?
Well, see, I don't know if there's rhyme or reason for certain holidays per se per business, but I do notice like I have a lot of dentists, I have a lot of pubs and liquor stores. I have a lot of restaurants. Yeah, I mean, there's such an array of businesses that I do, but I would say those were probably the the busiest or the ones I have the most clients for. But yeah, I mean, furniture stores, there's law offices, there's I mean, just really anything. But um, yeah, I don't know what makes them want them. I think they just want their well, one actually, I think it is uplifting for people that work for the business too. Like they get it for their staff sometimes. Just it's cheery. You know, you're walking into a business every day. If it makes your staff a little bit happier, why not?
Yeah, customer morale,
Yeah,
employee morale. Yeah,
exactly.
I didn't even think about that, how it would impact your employees.
Yeah,
I mean,
and even
everybody wants.
customers too. I actually had I rarely get tipped. Well, like from a client sometimes, but I got a tip from just a random stranger going into Safeway, and he says, "I come here almost every day. You're making it a beautiful." I refused several times, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. But yeah, like I mean, even the customers, you're making them happy. It's fun to look at. It's something out of the norm, I suppose. But yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, so whenever a furniture place asks you to do 4th of July windows, do they ask you to do, red, white, and blue couches, or do they do what do you customize each one for the store, or is it pretty much, are you doing the same kind of things for everybody but slightly different, or what's
I always do. Well, one, I'm in Canada, so I do Canada
Oh,
Day windows, but that's okay. So I haven't done a 4th of July window yet. Um,
my
but
bad.
no, it's all good. All good. Yeah, but yeah, I never really do the same windows. I think that's my favorite part of the business. I get to do something different every day. But yeah, I definitely would for white and red, I would do that or I'm just the one that came to mind. I did a liquor store and I did the text and it said Happy Canada D and then apostrophe EA because you know Canadians they always say A. So and I just spelled it different and it was kind of fun. So yeah, I mean, but you can I definitely, especially Christmas time, I definitely cater to the stores always. Like if they want that's why I mean, I really pride myself on being custom. Like, if you want your products in there or your logos or your colorings, whichever it is, I definitely will accommodate. Although that's a little stressful when you're first starting out, for sure. I'm less stressed about that nowadays, but window painting can be very stressful when you're first starting out.
How so? How
Well,
have you figured that?
just everybody's watching you. You're in, say, restaurants. People are eating dinner around you. Paint is can be dangerous. I mean, paint spills sometimes, and when people are watching you or whichever, it's and just people criticizing your art as you go because you know I'm sure as a muralist there's an ugly stage, so I feel like I over explained that at the beginning, like oh it'll look much different like to the client or whichever, you just have to trust the process, and then it's gonna, in the end, look a lot different, because when you're first starting painting it, it's not necessarily what it's gonna look like at the end. So
Yeah. What do you use to paint windows? What kind of products? What paint?
well, see, and I do things slightly different than a lot of window painters, but and this works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody else, but well, and again, outside painting is slightly different than painting from the inside. So I'll explain how I do the outside window art, just because I think that's the majority does that way. I would draw it out. I have a Magnum Sharpie to draw it out. So that's the big chisel tipped one. So you can get a really fine point line, but also a really thick line as well if you want. So depends on how you hold it. So I roughly draw it out. That again just depends on how you want it seen from the inside, because I don't do a white base like a lot of window painters do. Like they'll do a
Well,
full white base, and I don't.
why?
So
Okay, whoa.
because one, and again, I'm not dissing the white base at all, because like I feel like that's how people learned and that's how they do it, and all the power to you for sure. I just learned painting from the inside, so I think I got used to it looking nice from both sides. So when I started painting on the outside, I also wanted it to look good from the inside, and not have just be like a white object or whichever. So I draw it out. So the Sharpie lines are kind of your black lines from the inside. So if it's really being seen, I will do a little bit more detail on that first draw. But if it's say mirrored or nobody's seeing it really from the inside, then you can just like draw it out enough for you to paint it in. So after I draw it, I will go around with my outline, which could be white, but I've been doing a lot of colored outlines these days. So, which again, a lot of people do that at the end, but again, whatever works for you. But I do the outline first, and then you just fill it in like a coloring book. So the black lines, for the most part, show through a little bit, so that you can fill it in. I guess I shouldn't miss this step. When I'm blending my paint, I layer and layer until I'm satisfied. So I'll sometimes use like 3 to 4 different colors of yellow, just so you get your shading colors to your light colors. So I'll start in the middle, and that's another thing. Sorry, I might backtrack a little.
You're good.
When you draw it out with your Sharpie, you have little sections, so you don't have to like worry about the big pic. Like you don't have to hurry and paint that whole thing really, really fast. But if there's little sections with that you're in, you do that, the middle color first, and then you would do your darker color where you're shading. You'd want your like shadows, I guess I should say, and then a little bit of like I'll dip a little bit of white in, and then add to do my lighting or my highlights. And then after that's all filled in, just like a coloring book, I will go over all my black lines and then add all my black line details. And I use golden fluid acrylic for that in the carbon black, which it's expensive because you get a little tiny 1 ounce thing for, I think, oh no, the 4 ounce is like $25 or whatever it is, but it goes a long way, and it's definitely worth it. It flows nicely. It doesn't like ball up or anything like the thicker artist paints. Oh, which I do use artist paints mixed with I use exterior house paints as well as artist paints in the Liquidex brand.
Okay.
But that is not good for being rained on. So
Mm.
I will paint from the inside if the windows are not covered. So that's something, or if the windows are not covered and I cannot paint from the inside, I will use all exterior paint.
Exterior. Okay.
Exterior. I just like I almost always buy my white in an exterior. Like I don't buy artist white, but all my colors are artist acrylics. I like the thickness of it. I like how it blends together. It's not drippy, which is nice for not spilling. And yeah, I guess it's just what I'm used to, but it's very opaque and of course, it's minus some colors, but it covers really well too. So
Nice. Okay. And then you said the black that you use specifically, do you say you use that in an airbrush gun or you just use that?
no, just paintbrushes. I have not ventured over to the airbrushing yet.
Mhm.
It's
Okay.
on
And
my
you,
list of things to do.
yeah. Okay. And you like that black because of the coverage?
The coverage, it's so opaque as long as you're going over an existing paint. And it's just fluid. It's smooth and it you can drag it out for quite a while. So the coverage is really good. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. And then what do
And
you charge?
oh,
Yep.
sorry.
Well, no, keep going. Keep
I
going.
was gonna say there's one more step, but
Yeah.
it's just Posca pens or Sharpie pens I use for highlights, little tickies, I call them. I don't know the technical term, but just to add little, even just little swoosh lines, like if there's for movement or whatever it may be, or for little text. So like if you're doing, say, a little wooden sign and you want it to say something on it, but you don't want to do tiny text with a brush because that is a little bit harder, then I would use Posca pens for that.
Okay. Okay. So Posca pins on top of it. I love
Yep.
it. I love it.
I have lots
You
of
do
layers.
things slightly different, and I would have
Yeah.
never guessed that, but I like the diversity of it.
Awesome.
And I have never thought about doing it exactly like that. So one thing though, like when you're using like red or yellow and you're not doing a white base,
Mm-hmm.
how many layers do you have to do? Or is the paint that you're using just it's good with just a few layers or
I like those two are obviously the worst colors and oranges. I most of the time just use one coat, but sometimes I do use two. But when I'm doing the one coat, I just keep blending. Like I'll add a little bit of white because that'll kind of. But you don't want to over white for especially orange or
Mm,
red because it'll make it pink. But or even add like if you're doing reds, I'd add a yellow to the red as well just to get that lighter color of red. But
okay.
yeah, just keep applying it and until it's thick enough and opaque enough. But occasionally it dries and then it's a little more see-through than I'd like it. So then I will apply a second coat. But that's
What are your favorite
preference.
brushes?
To be honest, the Simmons brand.
Cinnamon?
Yeah, Simmons, and they are at Michael's. They're like $5 a piece, and they're the synthetic. The I mean,
I'm
I
gonna look
use
them
all
up.
sorts, but I like the longer bristled ones the best, especially for outlining and well, just for outlining, but well, for all of it actually. But I like them. They have a white handle
Oh, yep.
if
I'm looking
that
at them.
helps.
These are artist brushes. They're
Yeah.
not like house painter brushes.
No, I rarely. I mean, I do use house painter brushes, but I feel like the bristles are too coarse and they make. I'm very picky sometimes, and I just like the smoothness that these ones give. And they have fair size ones. And again, like I said, with the when you draw with the Sharpie, you're not. I don't. I mean, occasionally there's times where I need huge brushes or rollers, of course, but just to fill in the little sections with the biggest brushes that they have are it's works quite well and it's big enough.
I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So, what are you charging for your windows? I had a question recently in this coaching group that I do.
Mm-hmm.
They somebody had windows up and it had was one big window, but it had three panes on it, so three
Okay.
long panes. And they're like, "Do you guys, when you guys are charging by window, do you are charged by the full window or do you charge by each pane? Like, do you do it like that? Do you charge by job? What's your pricing?"
So this is the area I was worried to talk about because this is not my forte is the money part. I get in trouble from my family all the time. I don't charge enough, but I charge per day. So I can
Okay.
kind of roughly estimate how long it'll take me and then I charge per job. So, but I do get people approaching me constantly how much or like and then I'll say, "Oh, it depends on the job." And it really depends on size, but mostly on detail. Detail is key. So we're like if you're doing a ton of text, that's going to take you way longer, and you need to charge more for that. It doesn't really, I mean, definitely size comes into play, but it is really more what you're putting on the window. So in that case, I will, just to kind of appease people, I say it's around $100 and up per window. And that is, if it was large 3-panel window, I would charge per panel. If in that case, I would probably not call that one window. I would probably call it 3, but
Okay.
again, it would depend.
Yeah, it just
But
depends on the detail and how much time it takes you. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
I
Okay,
I
so
usually like to make $500 a day. That's my,
okay.
like, for an 8-hour day. But then if
Yeah.
I think it's going to take 6, I'll go, like 350 or 4, or I kind of, I mean, that is the best part of having your own business, is you can make the prices. I mean, obviously I don't want them to be completely sporadic all the time. I want to be consistent, but yeah, I figure, because a lot of times I lose out because it takes me way longer than I was hoping, but then sometimes it takes me a lot faster. So I figure it kind of rinses out in the end. I
Yep.
Yeah, hopefully.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think with Windows, do you find this as well that you can kinda you can kinda do what you want, right? Or does the customer lean over your shoulder and really dictate it? Because most of the time, these are gonna be left up for what, a couple months?
Couple months, sometimes years. So, but
Oh,
mostly months for sure. But yeah, some of them are longer. It really depends on the client. Some people tell me exactly what I have. Clients that'll like do a sketch up for me, which is, I find wonderful. I absolutely love it. And then other people say do whatever you want. And then some people will just say, as long as it's spring related, or maybe I just want sunflowers, or it's like a rough idea. It really does depend on the client. So
I love
yeah.
that. Yeah, I've had very picky clients, and I've had clients that said whatever, but I know in the back of my head, I know that if I were them, I would be the picky client. I know what I
I might
want.
be too. Yeah. Well, you want to be satisfied. That's fair.
Yeah, I know what I like, I know what I don't like. Like, can you just move that a little bit? Like, I would
Well,
be that person.
you would draw out the sketch for them first.
I would, I
Probably.
really would. I'd be like,
That's
"I want a
awesome.
sun, and I want 3 flowers, not 2," and then do,
Yep.
like yeah.
That's
Okay,
funny.
so, I guess I always like to ask, like, what are some good stories that you have of maybe lessons learned, things that people are listening can learn from it. Usually, some good ones are, customers not wanting to pay, or
Hmm.
paint being spilled, or something like that, or something that went incredibly right.
Yeah.
Whichever.
I've got lots, and of course, I can't think of any. I mean, I've definitely spilled paint, but in for the most part, as long as it's not carpet, and even then, if you get to it right away, you can usually get it off no problem. So you try not to stress about that too much. Um, I've had some clients that haven't paid for a while, and that's, I don't like bugging clients for money, but it is part of the business, unfortunately, because a lot of clients are bigger companies, and then they have to send the invoice off to back east or somewhere, and then those people process it and send it. So it's been months sometimes before I got payment. So that's not ideal. I mean, if that was something you're concerned about, I would definitely maybe address those issues beforehand with the client. But yeah, what other stories? Ah, hmm, I should have thought of more stories.
That's okay.
Just to be honest, like the people, like, I mean, murals and window art. You're out in the elements. People are all around you. You get tons of great comments, which make up for the certain comments that you missed a spot, you spelled that wrong. I get those like almost daily. So I can be a little, it can be a little aggravating, but I try not to show that, of course. Not good for business to be grumpy, but yeah. Um, the kids, like, just having kids come up to me and like being like, wow, and um, they're my they're my favorite critics. So, and they will be honest too, which is always lovely. So, yeah, I don't know. I've had some scary mural
Yeah.
paintings, just like where it was. I was on a Zoom boom and it was over a stairwell underneath power lines. Kids were coming out the door. It was just like, that's what I mean by this job can be stressful. Things you don't think of that come up. And that's another thing, like it's always different. I mean, obviously your window paintings are always different, but the environment's always different. The like you get there and there's a bush in your way, or the bugs are attacking you, or I mean, the cold, like it's freezing outside and you're out there for 12, 14 hours a day. There's lots of lots of
Yeah.
things to get through, but
Lots of
yeah.
elements
But
that.
then there's things that are worth it, like people's compliments, and just feeling like you accomplished something. And yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
that was a good story. I don't know.
You could. Yeah, no, I think it's just a reminder. There's so many times I've been out painting windows or murals, and I think, man, this is not what I thought I would have to be dealing with, like with
Yeah.
bugs and weather, like
Hmm.
being when I was in the studio in college painting. Like, there's just no way I would have like
Well,
moved
why would you
scaffolding.
think of that? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, but it is fun. There is a certain energy that comes with, I think, doing murals and windows because you're
Yeah.
out around people and it's just something about that. And you're out in the sunshine and
Yeah,
it's exhausting, but
it
there's just a
is.
certain kind of energy that's with it. It just like, especially if it, my favorite is the short jobs, the one I can go
Hmm.
out there do in like 2 to 3 hours.
Oh, love
And
those.
yeah, and then I have the rest of the day and I'm feeling so energized. I'm
Yeah.
not, because you're out with people and all the things and it brings you up. But,
Yep.
being out there for
Absolutely.
8+ hours, it can bring you down. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
exhausted. But just
Yeah.
those little short jobs, kind of nice.
They really are the best. And I thought of this when you were talking there. Like, it's funny. I find people treat you slightly different, or treat mural artists slightly different than they treat window painters. Window painters, people don't have a ton of faith in, I don't think. I really though, like I get comments like, "Are you a student? Are you doing this for free?" I don't know, and I just they just don't think it's a real job, I think is what the
Mm.
gist of it is. But it is. It's my bread and butter. I live on this business and I have for years, and I do it alone. So yeah.
Windows. Yeah, I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
not just around the holidays. I wanted to have you on and just talk about window art, basically, because, like I said, we're going up on the biggest window painting time of the year, which is
Hmm.
Christmas, and it's I think going out and promoting yourself and doing getting window painting clients right now. What percentage do you think that you paint for Christmas that you paint for other times of the year? Obviously, you're not going to paint everybody that you paint for Christmas at all times
No.
of year because then it would be insane all
Yeah,
year.
it
But
would be.
just to give a
At,
number,
I should actually do the numbers one day because I don't know exactly, but at least 50%.
50%. Wow. Okay.
Maybe even more. Yeah, that
Wow.
might
Okay.
only be 2 or 3 times a year, but some clients I go once a month. So
Wow.
yeah, it
I
depends
love it.
again on the client. But
I love that
yeah,
because it's an affordable thing. I always say, like, anything
yeah,
less than like $500 it,
yeah,
for any business is very doable, very
yes,
doable.
definitely.
And so to have keeping the prices lower, you get to come back more often
Hmm.
and it just stacks up more and more. And then people, they look forward to the new season change. And so window painting removal, do you
Hmm.
remove your own?
I That again is kind of, it depends. So some clients I work it in where I will remove it for free if I come back and do another window painting after. Some people I will just charge to remove it, and other people I don't. They hire a window cleaner to do that, which these days I'm leaning towards not doing that. I At first I did that, I'm a people pleaser, so I guess is why, but it's hurting my body a bit. So anything that I can not do, which that is one of the things I can hire someone to do, or get, someone else can. or just tell the client that I'm not able to do that. But most people don't. See, it depends. Like some people that haven't received a window painting before, they might be deterred from that because I think a lot of times it's just with my paint, you need a razor scraper to remove it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, um, like for instance, Tim Hortons, or do you know Tim Hortons? Yeah,
Yep.
I have. So I'll tell the owner or the manager how to remove it, but then they get somebody that works there who has no idea and they don't explain it, and they've tried to take it off with scouring pads, and then they wreck the window. So it just, yeah, it makes me kind of want to vomit when I see that, just because I know it's so easy to do if you do it the proper way. And it says it on my invoices, like how to remove it, but it doesn't always get to the person that's doing the removal. So
Oh, I like that. It says it on your invoices, how to
yeah,
remove.
yeah,
Love
I do.
that.
I
Okay.
should do a little video that maybe is attached as well, but I haven't got to that yet either.
So many to
But
do things.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's pretty self-explanatory. So you just spray with soapy water and razor scraper.
I was gonna ask, what do you, so Dawn dish soap, soapy water?
Dawn, exactly. Maybe like 5 to 10 drops in a spray bottle with warm water. I mean, but that doesn't necessarily matter. But yeah, then the razor scraper, and then just I have like the window cleaning squeegees and all that, but you can just use paper towel and Windex to get all the. Sometimes the Sharpie will be a little tougher to get off, but not much. So in that
Are you,
case,
is that an oil Sharpie? Like an oil,
no.
like, no.
Nothing,
Okay.
nothing I use is oil based.
Okay.
Everything is water based for sure.
Wait, so they make water-based acrylic Sharpies?
They,
Okay.
yes, yep. They used to have xylene in them, but they don't anymore. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I don't know that they're water based, but they're not oil. They're definitely not oil, and they come off
Okay.
just. That's the great thing about windows. As long as there's no film, do not put Sharpie on the filmed, but don't use paint on a filmed window either. So, yeah, always assess the window first and make sure. Maybe do a little spot if you like, but I rarely even do that anymore. I can usually tell. I mean, if there's no film, it's fine. If
Okay.
there's any like if it's harder to take off a little bit, then just spray it again with Windex and use the razor scraper just for the line part, or a magic eraser. That works too.
Okay, magic eraser. Okay, and so
Yep.
somebody has a film on it, which is like a tinted window, right?
Hmm.
So you can't paint on that at all, right?
No, I would have to paint either the other side, but then sometimes you won't be able to see if it's mirrored. You wouldn't be able to see it. Um, Preferably, I mean, sometimes the tint is on the inside though, and then I can paint out on the outside, no problem. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, excuse me. Yeah.
It's nap time.
There it is. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Um, so had you ever paint the opposite side? So whenever
Yeah,
you're not using the white background, so
no,
it does it look good on from both sides when you're
it
doing that?
does. Yeah, it does. So, like I said, when I draw it out, if I'm painting the outside, you'll see
Mm,
the lines first, the black lines, because that's like the first thing I did, and then the paint, and it'll look almost similar to the outside minus lighting. So, of
mm,
course, in the daytime, it looks opaque from the outside, but more like stained glassy from the inside. But in at the night or in the nighttime, it'll be opaque from the inside and more stained glassy from the outside. It's just
ah,
lighting, and you can't do anything about that, unfortunately. So, but if I were to paint from the inside, then I do it slightly different, not
how so?
overly, just all your black lines. You know how I would end my, like I told you, I use the golden fluid acrylic. I don't use that at all when I, and all my Sharpie lines are all the little details. So you have to do all your little details that first when you're drawing it out, all of those, even, and then you do the highlights, which again would be at the end if you're painting from the outside, but you would do your highlights, and then I would do the outline and then fill in with paint, and then you're done. So it's kind of, you almost miss one step. It can be a little bit faster from the inside and much warmer. So I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just slightly different. Like all the same products, minus I won't use the fluid acrylic because there's no need to, because the Sharpie, and I will also say the Sharpie you can go over with paint as long as it's the Magnum Sharpie, because you can't, for whatever reason, the other Sharpies don't work. But you can go over it with paint several times. It doesn't come off, it doesn't move, and when you paint over it, it almost becomes more opaque. So, yeah.
Love all of that because you're in Canada. So what part
Yeah.
of Canada are
Yeah,
you
it's
in?
cold.
So it gets cold.
It in the winters it's really cold. Yeah, I'm in BC, in British Columbia, and I live in Langley, which is probably about 45 minutes from Vancouver. So, yeah.
I've been there.
To Langley or Vancouver?
To both. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So
Yeah.
we painted at a Bass Pro Shops like outside of Vancouver and
Oh, yeah.
what is it? It's the W word. It's a big
Oh,
long word.
is it Abbotsford?
No,
Oh no.
it's a Winnebago. So right. It's oh man,
Is this the
it's
place?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's a long word, starts with W. It's
Hmm.
like
Why I'm not thinking about it, or I can't come up with it.
it's where you would like it's not far from where you get on the ferry to go to Vancouver Island.
Oh. Hmm.
Maybe it doesn't
Yeah.
start with a W. Anyway, we cut that, Richie.
Okay. Sorry, I
Okay.
don't know. I can't.
Okay, yeah, so it's very cold up there. So
It can be. Yeah.
do you do a lot of interior ones then?
I would say 50-50 kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of them are inside, and again, there might be something on the inside that is in the way. So then, of course, I have to paint on the outside. It really, again, it's like you get there and oh crap, I can't do that because
Yeah.
there's something in my way, or there's a tint on the window or whatever. So that's why I started painting from the outside as well, just because you had to adapt. You have to go with the flow with this job. Yeah,
Yes.
you never know what's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes so much sense. That's great. Now I mean you're almost doubling your product.
Yeah,
Being able to view it from each side, that adds something to it.
I think
And
so. I do like
yeah.
that aspect. It can it has, like, I mean, it's still really, really noticeable. I mean, the only thing there is you do get a little bit of glare from the glass because you're not painting over top of it, you're painting behind it. So from the outside, it's very visible. Again, that's or the outlines really help for visibility too. Just that's, I think, key. I mean, I do probably 90-95% of mine with an outline just so they stand out more. But yeah, you do get a little bit of glare, and then of course you could be staring into the sun, which is super awesome.
It's
And
super
by super awesome, I mean not awesome at all. But then again, you're warm, so I mean, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you pick your battles, I guess. Yeah.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for walking us through all the different ways of, or just the way that you paint windows. I think it's so different from the ways that I was taught and I would usually do. And and so yeah, it's just good to have a different perspective and you do it so well. So everybody who's listening,
Thank you.
please go to your Facebook. Is that your main social media?
And Instagram, yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, my website's getting rebuilt right now. So I don't have that
Yeah.
at the moment. But yeah, it's at Custom Art by Jackie. So
Okay, great. Yeah, it's okay. We love to stalk on Instagram, so
yay.
we'll do that. Yeah, I think it's great to
Perfect.
just see a visual of what you do too. So for anybody listening who thinks they might want to get into Windows, go check out and see a visual of what Jackie does, and I think it's going to inspire you just to even come up with designs. Seeing your designs and all the different things that you do, it can spark motivation for us to create designs that are similar but
Absolutely.
different. And yeah,
Yeah,
so thank you
exactly.
so
I
much.
mean, lots of people inspire me too. So yeah, of course. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to click the end recording button.